Hello everyone and welcome back to Cameos episode 8, the first official episode of 2019. I know that it's actually been a while again, and yeah, I keep doing this actually, so I do aim for 2019 to have a lot more Cameos episodes, so not just 2 or 3 episodes and then nothing anymore for an entire year. I'm actually gonna try to dedicate and make as much Cameos stuff as possible, since I know that still quite some of you guys are pretty interested in that. And I mean, we're in 2019 and chronologically I'm still kinda in 2015 with Cameos, so let's make sure I hurry because it's getting a little out of hand right now. Without further ado, let's get into person number 1, which is Ivron. Ivron is someone I don't have too much to say about, considering I really don't know him too well. However, he's a really nice dude I met back in 2015 when I first started going to cons. Ivron is one of those guys that always brings some nice vibe to the table when in larger groups, which is really something he stands out with. I don't remember in particular when I first actually met him, but he's someone a lot of my friends know in some way. Because of that, I've always kind of seen him pop up everywhere. I do consider him a friend, but I of course know too little about him. He's just a convention friend, and he for years has been everywhere I go. So over time, I kinda got to know him, and I really like him. He's cool, and he's also a pretty great dancer, so that's a thing. Number 2, Yerin, or Hegai. Hegai, or formerly called Yerin, is a friend I met in summer 2015 during the UCM cosplay meeting. She definitely stood out to me when we first met because she seemed really nice to me, even though we had never met before. Soon as the day ended, we found ourselves in a little group and met up occasionally or chatted on a daily basis. I remember us having a lot of stuff in common, which caused us to privately talk a lot to each other. This one day, she out of nowhere asked me to join her to a birthday party of a friend of hers that I hadn't met before. I was kind of hesitant on the idea back then because I didn't know too many people in the community yet, and so not her friends. She kept insisting she'd cover traveling expenses at the time, and I didn't really have that much money back then for traveling far, so I was very grateful for that she wanted to go that far for me. Yet I was confused. We only just met each other not too long ago and had only been talking for a couple of weeks or months back then, so it was a huge deal for me. Eventually she brought me along, and her friends were amazing and nice people. I actually had a really good time at that party, and I got treated very well that day, despite not knowing any of these people. Soon after this party, I started attending conventions more, and I started seeing the group they always had a lot. This is where I for the first time hung out with all of them at Abunai 2015. They were all very energetic and also blended well with most of my other friends, which was a really nice thing to me. Jump forward a couple of months, I met up with Hegai at parties, at sleepovers and meetings a lot more. Also started to blend with a large portion of other friends, and that was really nice too. By the end of 2015, we kinda grew apart. I could say many reasons caused for it to happen, though it wasn't that bad. Soon after we parted ways, our group of friends kinda stopped hanging out altogether. She eventually ended up dating Wesley, one of my friends I also met around the same time, and he was also part of this group. In the year of 2016, haven't really seen or heard much about Hegai, to say the least. Neither did she really go to many cons or meetings anymore. Eventually she contacted me again by the end of the year and in the beginning of 2017 to talk again, and we kinda caught up again after a long while. She after that actually made an appearance shortly in the Abunai 2017 vlog, even though we for a long time didn't really communicate anymore. I actually kept seeing many of her friends and got to know a lot of them personally in the meantime. What can I say? It's just funny how things end up going sometimes. Number 3, Lisa. Lisa is a friend I met during 2015 at the Amsterdam cosplay meeting. Back at the meeting, I don't remember really having too much interaction with her, but she definitely stood out, being very energetic, and I remember she reminded me of a friend my sister had once. Because of this, I definitely always recognized her wherever I met her. She also happened to be at the most meetings, so I got to know her pretty fast. It didn't really take too long for us to actually get to know each other and respect each other as friends. She ended up getting this weird habit of making some weird ass screech sounds and jumping me whenever we would see each other at any place really. Lisa is definitely a girl I found really cute. We over time got to see each other at many conventions and meetings, but I think it wasn't until 2016 that we actually started personally having conversations and such. We also really relied on each other when in tough situations and needed to talk. She in a lot of ways has a very similar mindset like my own, which made it very nice to talk to her, knowing she'd understand me. However, even though this is the case, she's still pretty much a big airhead as well, so it's definitely an interesting combination to say the least. Now in 2017, I haven't really had too much contact with her. We in the beginning of the year had contact still, but it still kinda slowly faded, and it kinda became rather silent. As many others, even though we don't talk, I still consider her a friend of mine. We just have other things going on in life. So, meet whenever we meet, I guess, but she does in fact deserve a place in Cameos, considering she's been on camera a lot. Number 4, Melina. Melina is a really cute girl I met back in 2015 when I went to several meetings. I remember running into her at the end of the day at the Rotterdam Alexander cosplay meeting, when I was bored and I just had no clue what to do with my day. I met a group of people that wanted to head towards McDonald's and just hang out there, and she, along with some others, was part of that. Melina at the same time wasn't one of the people I knew yet, so when she acted towards me as if we knew each other for a long time already, I was quite shocked but also flattered. Thought it was kind of funny. I had no idea who she was, but she kind of treated me as her own best friend in a way. Though I gotta say, she was demanding. It was actually really funny, but she even grabbed my arm as a way of claiming me at that moment and dragged me around from place to place. Well, isn't that interesting as a first meeting? Anyways, soon after, I saw her a lot at meetings and small conventions, which was a really fun thing, and I thought she was really cute. And also, she always showed me how much she liked it if I came to any event, which made me feel pretty happy. I think by the end of 2015, we started talking a bit more in private. We never really actually hung out in person or anything, but we got to know each other pretty well. After a while, I met up with her again at Sunacon 2016 in the beginning of the year, but unfortunately for her, she was really not that big of a fan of big cons like it. She told me she always ended up losing people around her at big events like Sunacon, and I could understand how she felt considering I was similar when I just started to attend cons. Melina disappeared for quite a while and I hadn't seen her in months, and time definitely flew by. Nowadays we don't really talk to each other anymore, but she now and then stops by to have a chat with me, which is a pretty nice thing because we update each other on live events from now. And I may not actually see her anymore at conventions or meetings like that, but I do really still consider her a friend, and I think that she's still really cute and funny. Number 5, Sam. Sam is a friend I met as well during 2015 Amsterdam cosplay meeting. I actually that day didn't talk to her at all, so I barely had an idea who she was. But as many others, Sam came to so many meetings that it was hard to not know her after a couple of meetings. As time flew by, she as well showed me that she really loved it when I came to meetings and such, which I really appreciated. I over time saw her at meetings and conventions, and personally we hung out a couple of times, including the photo shoots we had before. Sam is a friend I personally really appreciate and respect, especially since she's a mother of 2, which is hard to tell when you know her. She has an ironically split personality, to which part of her is very motherly to her friends and very mature, and the other side is very childish and just cute to say the least. The combination can be rather confusing, but I gotta say, it's very entertaining to watch. I in 2016 saw Sam a lot more than I did in the beginning of our friendship. In that year, personally, I became really good friends with her, and we got to know each other a lot better than how we started out. I went to her house several times, hung out with her in private, went to her birthday, saw her at meetings and cons, and on top of that, she's quite a reliable person to talk to. One of the ongoing inside jokes Sam and I have is definitely based on how she always keeps this tough woman front, while she's actually in reality a quite cute and adorable fragile person. Of course, many people have this, so it's not the biggest discovery in the world, but it's definitely something we continuously fall back on, and it's definitely a funny thing to me. All in all, Sam isn't a person I meet too often. I see her at cons and usually not even that long, but I must say she's fun to be around whenever we are hanging out. So who knows how many more cameos she's gonna be making in the future. Number 6, Gabby. Gabby is a very enthusiastic and energetic girl I met back in 2015. Not at a convention, but actually in the comment section on my Abonai vlog in 2015. She used to be somewhat of a fan of my channel, and since they were very rare to me back then, she definitely is one I wouldn't forget easily. She reached out to me asking information about Abunai and if I attended the next one and which other cons I'd be attending because she wanted to meet up with me. I was flattered and thought it was really cool that people actually commented because they wanted to meet me. Soon after, we personally had contact and texted one another and kind of got to know each other a bit better, though back then I had very short talks with her though. She claimed to be somewhat into voice acting, and she was part of a group of aspiring Dutch voice actors, which really got me interested in her more. She told me we would be able to collab or something, and I was very much into voice acting back then, so it definitely sounded like gold to my ears. Gabby then soon gave me the information I needed and I took a look at their channel. They seemed pretty good right off the bat, although they weren't necessarily popular. I instantly sent them an email considering how I wanted to collab with them, but I never really got a response on it, so I kinda let it go. Jump forward a couple of months later, I actually got to meet up with Gabby and her friend at AnimeCon 2016. She was very much as expected and beyond, which was very fun to see. We talked about a lot of things that day, and I didn't really know the details, but I'm sure we have talked about the collaboration again. Not too long from then, I actually subscribed to their group. Gabby one day out of nowhere linked me a video where one of her friends mentioned me in a video. This is where I was so flattered because this guy was talking about several people in the Dutch anime community on YouTube that deserved more exposure. I had no idea who he was, but then subscribed to the guy too. Since he did kind of expose a large variety of Dutch content creators in the community I wasn't even aware of, and the more potential collab partners I could get to, the more fun it would be for me. Soon after this, I suddenly got a notification saying that this group Gabby was in was having a live stream on YouTube. I was curious to see what they were like, and there they were, VoiceOver World NL. The group of voice actors I had only kind of heard about from Gabby, the group I wanted to collab with. When they noticed I entered the stream and I chatted with them, they seemed very interested in who I was, but because it wasn't as direct as I wanted, I decided to respond to them with voice messages through Gabby on WhatsApp. This is how we first bonded and it went really well. By the end of that stream, they decided to throw me into their WhatsApp group, and you could say that that was a beginning of a new journey itself. Number 7. Greg. Greg is a friend of mine I also met in 2015 Amsterdam cosplay meeting. Like several others before, I hadn't really talked to him that much that day, but there was something that made him stand out a little bit. He didn't really do anything too crazy or didn't stand out like a loud person in the group, yet his vibe and appearance made him easily look very cool. I remember him jamming on the piano when I first was waiting at the station hall for everyone in the meeting to gather, and he was pretty good. Skip forward a while, I met this dude at a lot more meetings and cons, and he ended up just being that guy that had to be part of the group. He always is a very chill and collected individual, but even so, he was a very nice person to have around as well, and he would easily be missed if he was not to join. I think Greg and me only started to actually communicate more after Nishikon 2015, where he actively acted in one of my skits that day. Also, we can't forget he's been in a lot of vlogs in 2015, so he wasn't necessarily easily forgotten. Somewhere in the end of 2015 or perhaps somewhere in 2016, I remember that one of my best friends randomly had a crush on him. But when you're close to a friend, you often dislike it when they get too close or attached to new people, of course. So I indeed wasn't too happy about the news. However, one thing was different in this situation. As much as I did not really like the idea, I with no hair in my body knew how to dislike Greg. Neither did I see a reason why he'd not be a good boyfriend for her. And because I by now knew him this well, I eventually kind of let the idea go and stopped caring about it. Ever since, they've been a couple and I've seen them in a lot of places together. And I'm honest when I say that they are honestly a really nice set together. Greg is just a really cool guy and I respect him a lot, and I still really do want to work on some original music with him. We talked about a lot of collabs in the past, so let's definitely not forget to actually make something happen soon. Number 8. Paula. Paula is a girl I met in 2015 during another Leiden cosplay meeting. Back then we only communicated quickly and shortly, but the end of the day kind of forced us to kind of talk more. Considering it was dark outside and me and Chanel were more or less lost, Paula headed the same way we did and eventually we found the station. I soon started seeing Paula at meetings and conventions a lot more. I wouldn't say she became one of my close friends necessarily, like other people did, but we acknowledge each other for sure. Paula was pretty supportive with a lot of my projects, which was definitely something I kinda needed back then, and I really appreciated that. I remember when she only just started telling me that she had practiced animating, and unlike me, she challenged herself learning 3D animation. Even though I nowadays barely see her, I kept quite up to date with her progress in things, and I gotta say, she's actually learned very well. But I can definitely say that if she continues to grow as she already is, and I push myself as well, growing in my own projects, who knows, we could make some cool collaboration in the future. Whether or not that's something she's interested in, I don't know. But it definitely sounds like a pretty cool idea. Number 9. Melinda. Melinda is a friend I met at the same meeting where I met Paula back in 2015. I didn't necessarily know Melinda well or anything, and even today I don't really think I know much about her. But I do know that she's a very sweet girl, and even though she doesn't really talk that much, I can tell we kind of became friends over time. Melinda initially came in contact with me since she was in charge of a group travel ticket we were ordering to travel for the meeting. Getting these tickets would mean that the more people participated in it, the cheaper your ticket got. Back then, I had no idea who she was, and I'm sure she barely knew anyone that joined the group ticket. But we all had one destination and we could help each other out. So we did. At the end of the day, when I finished talking to Paula and her friend, Melinda was standing there as well. And when I asked her what her name was, she told me she was Melinda. Back then, it didn't click to me instantly that she was the same girl in charge of the ticket, and the main reason I traveled so far for so cheap. But it wasn't a problem necessarily. Over time, I got to see Melinda more and more at conventions and meetings, and we started talking more and more, but I never really got that type of close or personal with her. She's just one of those friends I appreciate, and I know that she more or less appreciates me whenever she runs into me, but it doesn't necessarily go beyond that. She used to be pretty much everywhere, and so did I, so we just made the best out of it whenever we saw each other, and it's nice that way. I don't know. Now I haven't really seen or talked to Melinda in a while, and whether or not I've seen her in 2017 or 18, I kinda don't really remember. But she's definitely a nice person, and I believe she has made quite some cameos. Number 10. Wesley, or TeamSexyBack. Wesley is a great guy I met at Nishikon 2015. I remember already having seen several funny videos from TeamSexyBack in early 2015, because they were fairly well known among cosplayers that time. And oddly enough, I found myself running into these guys on our way to Nishikon. I have seriously no memory of how we started talking, but I think we were lost, and like with every convention, I just ended up navigating my way through with strangers to get to a convention. I soon realized it was them from TeamSexyBack, and I thought it was a very funny way of meeting the guys. We continued talking about all kinds of things, and despite being nice to me, they did seem like rather sarcastic asses. A little bit. But that idea soon went away because the entire weekend I ran into them an insane amount, and they were actually really nice people. Due to several reasons, unfortunately, the channel of the guys soon after died down, as they had personal things in life keeping them busy, leaving them to disappear from the conventions altogether. I remember despite that, still getting a lot of nice comments and feedback from Wesley, even with him kind of off the grid. I soon started seeing him again in 2016, and I feel like that's where I got to kinda know him personally. He's a very dependable guy and very ambitious. He has a lot of stuff going on in his life, and even though he wants to come back to the YouTube game, it just kinda takes a while to get there. But I do really believe that he's capable of a lot of awesome things. And he's actually a person I kinda consider a friend. I know he's been talking about collabing and working together. I'm curious to see what the future brings. But what I think would be a very nice start for him is to come back from hiatus officially. But I am pretty sure that'll work out just fine. But that's all I had for today in this episode of Cameos. This is getting really crazy because I think most of you don't realize this, but this being episode 8 means that there's already about 80 people that have made it on this list that I know by name and that I kind of had conversations with for several years. So that's pretty crazy stuff how many people that has been, considering this is end of 2015 and we are currently in 2019. So I'm really looking forward to the amount of people we're going to be having in 2016, and I think that it's not going to take too long anymore before we are officially done with 2015. So be on the lookout for that, because I'm gonna probably call that Cameos Season 2. A lot more faces are gonna pop up, and I hope you guys are hyped for that. So be sure to give me a big like and leave a comment, and yeah, see you guys in the next video.